Wimberg Pride Arts and Entertainment, take one.
Hello and welcome to the Wimberg Pride Arts and Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Darryl J. Jenkins. My guest today is Treasure. Treasure, welcome to Wimberg Pride.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm an author of two books. First book is called Harlem Girl Lost, which is a six-time bestseller, and I have a present book that just came out June 26th called The Street Girl Named Desire.
Okay, so we have Harlem Girl Lost right here, right?
Yes,
this is it?
That's my baby.
That's your baby?
Yes, sir.
All right, so how many copies of this have you sold?
Well, to date, I think I have over 100,000 books in circulation right now. I started off independently where I sold 65,000, roughly over 65,000 copies. Then I got signed to Random House, and they repackaged it, redistributed, and I think I sold about another 30,000, another 35,000. So it makes it about 100,000 in print as of today.
Okay. And your other book?
And my book is The Street Girl Named Desire. That came out June 26th, and as of today, it's I just went into fourth printing and over 40,000 copies so far.
Excellent.
Within a month and a half.
Tell us, how did you get into writing?
Well, I always was a reader.
Mm-hmm.
And I lose myself in books. You know, that's how I seek solace. When the average kid was playing hooky, I found myself playing hooky in the libraries,
mm-hmm.
and reading these books, and I just was a little weird kid that used to just go to the library, and I don't know, I used to go to the library and steal books. I didn't know that you can
you could take them out.
Could take them out.
You had a library card.
Until one day, library lady said, "Excuse me, here you go," and handed me a card,
mm-hmm.
my own card. She said, "You can take them out for free," and it was like heaven from then on.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first book that I ever read was called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay,
and it seemed that me and him had sort of a kinship, you know, trapped in our own ways, you know, as for me a child, because I'm an abandoned child. I had a rough upbringing.
Okay.
And so these books really took me out of
mm-hmm.
myself.
Right.
You know?
It took you out of all the problems.
All the problems.
Everything you was going through.
Yes, I was ashamed to talk about these things coming
mm-hmm.
up, but my
mm-hmm.
mother was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And I saw some pretty horrible things. And I just felt different, always ashamed and
mm-hmm.
and less than, dirty.
Right.
I just felt like that
and nobody else was
life.
going through what you were going through.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I seek solace, like I said, into books,
mm-hmm.
and it just took me away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first stage of my introduction into, you know, literary arts.
Okay.
And as I got older, somebody suggested, my sister-in-law suggested, this is after, you know, a lot of hardship in my adulthood now,
right.
because
trials and tribulation.
Trials and tribulation. It
mm-hmm.
was just always a lot of things that I was too ashamed to talk about.
Right.
And this is really the catalyst which made me write today.
Right. You had a lot of baggage.
I had a lot of baggage.
You was hiding it.
Yes, sir. I had a lot of things within me. And when I really started writing, my whole purpose, I said to myself, if I went through these same feelings,
mm-hmm.
anger issues, shame issues,
right.
how many other children is an adult who went through that?
Right.
Because it's just like a walking time bomb. Because
mm-hmm.
I went through the drugs, alcohol.
Right.
I went through the whole 9 yards of it,
right.
in order to find self.
Right.
And I recovered.
mm-hmm.
But it's so many people who haven't.
Right. Right.
And I want to be the voice of those little children who saw the horrors of their parents who was addicts or alcoholics, and saw the horrors that come with it. What about their stories?
Right.
And that is the foundation of me writing these stories.
I hear you.
Because I'm no longer ashamed to say, you know, what type of child I was, the things I saw, what my mother was, how it broke my family or ripped my family apart.
Okay. How many siblings did you have?
I have 2 sisters and a brother, all older than me.
Right.
And collectively and systematically, being in a household where your mother is a gut alcoholic, nobody want to see their mother pain themselves like that. And so one by one, when they all got older, they all, as soon as they turned 17, 18, they gone. They went off to college. They went off somewhere, and that left me alone.
Right.
You know, but I was a tough little kid, and I could take it seemingly.
Right. Where did you grow up at?
I lived in Harlem.
You live in Harlem?
We moved a lot because of my mother inhibitions. And until finally she hit rock bottom, and we got on welfare for the first time, because my mother was a school teacher and worked at the post office at night, and it just broke her.
Right.
You know, about 11 years old, the life that I knew changed.
Right.
We owned brownstones in Harlem. I never knew bad until that.
So mom's hit the bottom.
My mom just was inebriated one day, and I didn't know who that person was, and it's been a downward cycle ever since.
Okay.
And you know, all the kids teasing your mother, she stagger up the block. Those things does things to you as a child.
No doubt. No doubt.
You know. And I just basically went out on my own, you know, and I took this world from my feeble mind on what it really is, and 9 times out of 10 you're wrong. And I just even to this day, you know, I don't feel part of society, so to speak.
Okay.
You know, because I was robbed of a childhood. I had no child. The only way I realized, and I didn't know I had it that bad until I had children myself.
Right.
And said, wow, I was running the streets at 11. My child is 11. I couldn't see it.
Right.
And that's the only way that I knew what type of childhood I had. You know, and that goes right to the voice that I write about. I write about these stories of alcoholic parents, abandoned child. I was in Sparfit.
Okay.
You know, lockup detention. I was, you know, a regular trying to get chased by they call it BCW back then.
Okay.
But they couldn't catch. I refused to go to any group homes and things like that. That's the childhood that I had.
Right.
But I couldn't talk. I couldn't say that.
Right back then.
Back then.
Right.
It was a whole different world. So I expressed that in my words, and my words have a. They say I have an uncanny sense of regurgitating my pain
through your writing.
Through my writing, where people not only, you know, they just don't read my story, they feel my story.
Right.
Because it's sincere and honest.
Right. You make them feel like they're
absolutely
like you used to get lost in your books.
Sir, you were 100% correct.
They're lost in your book.
And it helps so many people because my secrets, I give them up. Molestation. Yeah, I couldn't say that years ago.
Right.
And when I put it in paper, and the feedback that I get from my readers when they write me via email or letters, it's enough to make you cry, because they say they thank me for being able to finally see it in words that they're not the only people who went through what they went through. It's a sad story.
I understand.
But you know, maybe I'm put here to express that, to tell you that it's okay. Right. You know, and that's the whole message that I want to convey to the world. Right. See, because in my family, nothing got outside the family. Anything that happened in the household stayed in that household. You know what I mean? I understand. So even though I had a father, he never lived with us, and we was always just a big, you know, separation. I would be starving. Right. Starving, hungry. I'm talking about dizzy, headache, hungry. My pride, from what I was taught, prevented me from asking or reaching out for help, even from my own father.
Right.
You know, who was living somewhere else.
Mhm.
You know, but that's the type of life that I had to handle. I got into drugs early on to eat.
Right.
You know, I was always afraid out there when I started selling drugs at 14 years old on 117, 118th Street and 8th Avenue.
Okay.
And I remember so many of the drug addicts, my customers. You know, I was so young. They used to always come to me and give me a word of wisdom. Why don't you go to school?
Right.
Which I was going to school, even though I was selling drugs. I was maintaining, trying to go to school, trying to do everything I was supposed to.
Right. But they was trying to help you.
They were always, you know, because they lived a life that was
Right.
full.
Right.
And they look at me and see me as a child, and you should be. They always gave me advice. Never tried to hurt me. They always gave me advice.
Yeah,
I was
nothing
afraid
negative.
of them.
Yeah.
But I used to go upstairs to empty home and just cry, you know, myself to sleep.
Right.
One good cry, fall asleep, and repeat the process all over again.
Wow.
You see, and it stayed. It just stayed. You know, it just stays with you until your adulthood. When you try to put on this facade that you're so strong, and in the long run, in the end, you find out when you thought you was the strongest, you actually was the weakest. Because when I fell, I fell.
Right.
I fell, brother.
Fell deep.
I fell deep. I fell real deep. My whole world fell to pieces. And here I was, thought I was a strong person, but I was nothing. It was just a facade. It was just a matter of time before things fall apart.
Okay.
And
when did you find yourself? When did you, you know, realize and start writing, and was able to put that pain on paper?
Okay. I worked for the New York City Fire Department for 14 years as a supervisor, fire inspector. And I used to write, I got into screenwriting. And one piece that I did, which was called The Prodigy 5, you know, I let a couple of friends read it, and they said it was good, really good. But, you know, I'm the non-trusting soul that I am. You're just a friend. You got to respect me. You have to say that.
Right.
And after so many people told me it, my sister-in-law, God bless the dead, she said, Treasure, since you read so much, why don't you write? You know, and if you need a story to write about me. And that's exactly what I did. I made a screenplay, and I went further than length. I enrolled into this place called the Gotham's Writers Group in a village in Manhattan, and it's all these wannabe screenwriters. And so now I'm putting myself up with the big dogs now.
Right.
Now this is going to show and prove. I'm scared, but in the end, I got the blue ribbon for the best screenwriting piece of work, and that's when I was convinced that I can hold my own. Right,
God gave you a gift.
Yes, and when they was had to go around robin and ask all the other students why did my screenplay win, it was a white girl. Never forget it. She welled up, and she was explaining a story, and she started welling up in tears, and she just broke down and said, if there's anybody in here that's going to be a screenwriter, it's going to be him, and just bust out and ran out the room.
Wow.
That's when I realized I got this knack to touch people, because I'm giving you the truth, pure, unadulterated truth.
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. So, you know, I mean, I exceeded my expectations in the writing world. I no longer have nothing to prove. It's nothing. You don't have to saturate my soul on anything like that, because I received so much accolades from my writing, and like Troy always say, you know, you got to be an author who can relate to their fans, their readers, and everybody in general. And that's exactly what I do. I'm a humble person.
I understand.
You know, and I don't look up to anyone. I don't look down on anyone. You know, I try to be myself and try to be honest. And people see through the honesty. You know, I mean, because it's a whole lot of things that I say. I speak at high schools. I speak at Rikers Island. I speak at, you know, alternative high schools and things, all of which I was at.
Right.
And I go into these places, I'm talking about these are rough groups
Right.
that I go to, and I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they say, "Oh, catcalling," and I just come in there and raise my hand. I said, anybody in here, parents ever is an alcoholic or an addict? Raise your hand. Nobody say anything. Keep my hand raised. Is there anybody in here ever been molested? Raise your hand. Is there anybody in here who's been abandoned, been in foster home? Raise your hand. And that's when I got them. It's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
No, they know that they dealing with somebody who's been there. I've been there on the drug side. I've been there on both sides of the fence.
Right.
So I can, most of all, I can relate to the young, because my girlfriends when I was young, mostly used to be runaways themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that I ever heard that a man could actually have sex with a child is through my girlfriend. And she cried on my shoulder and told me the most heartbreaking story. And that never left me, because I felt for her. And those are the very things that I talk about in my book.
All right, before we go on, because you got me caught up,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that people who want to contact you get your number.
Yes.
Even though it's going to be on the end of the credits, I want you to give them your email address and phone number. Do that right now.
Okay, it's Treasure E Blue. That's TreasureE Blue, BLUE, at yahoo.com.
Right.
They can contact me there or on MySpace, the same name, and I write everyone back.
Excellent.
I don't leave anything out, especially, you got to understand, the letters that I receive is so gut-wrenching sometimes. I have to take time out, and I have to cry sometimes hearing these stories.
Okay.
And like I wrote in my book, I said that after all I've been through in my lifetime, I just wish that somebody could have told me this one thing, which I'm going to tell you. And that one thing I would tell you that I wish somebody had told me was that it's not your fault.
Right.
Because I lived with that for a long, long time, thinking that I'm the one who did wrong.
Right.
It's so many kids out there, and it's all about the kids to me.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's all about the virtual zombies that's out here today. I was in drug rehabs before. I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I will not lie, and I never knew what was wrong with me. You know what I mean? I always felt I had the need to have the best jobs, which I was working for the New York City Fire Department, making $63,000 a year that I walked away from, only because it was something within me greater.
Right.
After 911 hit, and I was there, and I realized that there's nothing that could be done. And I just walked away. Call me what you want. But if you was there, it was just like another planet. And that's when I realized life was too short. And that's when I started taking writing very, very seriously. And when I finally got something tangible, I resigned from my job 4 months before that book came out. And that was on faith. And, it worked out because I sold a lot of books,
Right.
which translate into a lot of money. I even signed with Random House for a multi-mid-six-figure deal,
Okay.
For a first-time author. And that's an accomplishment. I mean, in my wildest dream, I didn't know I could do it. But I stayed humble about it because it's a privilege.
Right.
It's an honor,
Okay.
to even have a known book when you got so much competition out there.
Definitely.
And
Harlem Girl is more like people who you've run into, people who you grew up with, people that was in the programs.
Yes.
Have you talked to? Let's talk a little bit about Harlem Girl.
Okay.
What inspired you to talk about Harlem Girl? Why couldn't it be Alaska Girls? Or,
okay. As they say, you have to write about what you know about.
Right, exactly.
And one thing I know about is those streets.
Okay.
That pain and suffering. That sick and suffering. Don't even know why. And Harlem Girl Lost is about a smart, precocious young girl that aspires to become a doctor. Her mother's a junkie, a prostitute, and the only thing that her mother could possibly offer her daughter is the truth. Because, like I explained before, we don't tell these kids everything's, we let us walk up into these big,
Right.
Setups.
Yeah.
And I refuse, even with my children, I tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them about their father. I tell them about their grandmother. I tell them how I came up. I ask them what's the worst word in the world, which I do put in the book, which is can't. If anybody asks you to use drugs, say hell no and walk away.
Right.
Definitely.
Definitely.
See, because, it's fantasy. A lot of cats growing up into the 70s, like my cousins and everybody, it was no role models.
Right.
It was absolutely none.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote in my book, the worst thing that ever happened to urban black boys was these blaxploitation movies, like Superfly and what's that, Goldie,
Yeah.
the Mac.
The Mac, yeah.
You know
all
what I
of
mean?
those,
I
yeah.
remember being in the second grade where everybody tried to emulate
Right.
these hustlers,
Right.
these swindlers,
These pimps and all that, yeah.
But this is what you wanted to become.
Right.
You know?
Because it was in our community,
Absolutely. It wasn't no doctor's
Mhm.
father, Johnny's father next door. We
Right.
couldn't see that. The only
Right.
tangible thing was a person really getting the money. Like,
Yeah.
a good dressed brother like you. Well dressed brother like you. And and it's sad.
Yeah.
And I lived that life. I watched my cousin fall.
Mhm.
Who paid for it with their lives.
Right.
I'm even behooved how I'm still here today, because don't get it twisted, I was on both sides of the fence.
Okay.
It's just that I was more afraid than anyone else and didn't want to take it to the length.
Right.
You
You
know
didn't
what I
give
mean?
up. That's what it was.
I didn't. I
Yeah,
really didn't
all this
give up.
stuff. That's what I'm hearing. Everything you said, and all your trials and tribulations, you never gave
Well said.
up.
Well said, sir.
You never gave up,
Well said.
and that's important, because I think our kids give up. Our parents
Right.
have given up, but we have not. We as a people, and I think too, the thing is that we never could have made it through slavery.
Absolutely.
We never could have made it through slavery. Those 500 years, we don't talk about all those people who died. Because our determination, our willpower, and I think it's just that drive that you
Yes,
have
sir.
in you that
Absolutely.
never let you give up.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, I want to just lay down and die sometimes. You got to understand that. I remember being about 15 or 16 years old with the things that I'm doing, knowing I was going to die before I was 18. How can a child like that have so much stress on his mind where he didn't see living past 18? What's going on?
Right, what were you doing?
What was I doing? I remember I couldn't find my mother anymore, and I dropped out of school in the 12th grade, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
I was still going to school, and I'm talking about I was kidnapped out there
Mm-hmm.
by dope fiends and cops
Okay.
who actually roughed me up, took my money, and drugs or whatever, and kicked
Right.
me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually couldn't find my mother to sign me into the military. And I had to wait around with these military papers on me for like 4 months. Because right now I didn't have an apartment to live in. We lost everything. And it was becoming horrible, almost getting murdered out there on the streets. No child should ever have to go through these things.
Right.
And I don't know, I always gravitated around the young girls that was runaways or had issues. And they was always prone to tell me their stories. And we used to sit up for hours, and they used to bleed their soul to me, cry on my shoulders. And I said, whoa, this is true. That's why I believe 70% of that story is true in one form or another.
Right.
That's why, people really think that I'm a female the way that I write, because I always tell a story through the perspective of a young girl or woman You know, I have transvestites characters in my book, which I actually become a transvestite to get inside their mind, which is real people. The transvestite saved my life from getting set up and robbed and possibly shot, which was the MO back there.
Right.
But he came along and saved my life. These are the type of people that seemingly the bottom of the barrel, but they always had a kind word and motivation, trying to inspire me to go back to school and things like that. I was out there selling drugs when the Kennedy kid overdosed on 116th Street and 8th Avenue. It was real out there on those streets of Harlem.
Right.
And I don't really know why I'm still here. I know why, because God want me to convey a message. You know, and I tell a story.
Right.
I tell a story. You know, and none of my stories is banal.
Right.
You know, it's in the end, it's give you a powerful message, you know, to all my stories. And Chuck D, a great rapper from Public Enemy, he said, I don't rhyme for the sake of riddling. Well, I'm not writing for the sake of writing.
Right.
If I just had to write about the cliche and things like that, I refuse. I put down the pen forever.
All right. Before we go, I want to give you your full name, your email address, and give us the name of your book again.
Okay. My name is Treasure E. Blue, author of Harlem Girl Lost and A Street Girl Named Desire. You can contact me at treasureeblue@yahoo.com.
Okay. And I want to thank you for telling such inspiring story.
Yes, sir.
Keep up the good work. Well, you ain't got to starve no more.
No, sir. Thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure to be here.
Likewise.
All right.
My guest today was Treasure E. Blue, the author of Harlem Girls Lost. You can go on the website too as well.
Yes, you can get it from Amazon.com. You can get it from any bookstore, any vendor in the New York City area or out of state, anywhere.
Okay.
And just get the book, and you're gonna be in for a hell of a story.
All right. I want to also give a special thanks to my cousin Troy Johnson for bringing Treasure and having him be a part of Winbrook Pride. So I want to, at this closing, I want to say that I hope that you will continue to watch Winbrook Pride.